Surely God will not listen to an empty cry. Job 35:13. Alright guys, chapter 11, the locks of prayer. This chapter basically gives 10 examples of what could be locking, what could be hindering your prayer life, what could be holding you back, just weighing you down, just like chains on your feet. And I'm sure people can relate to these. I thought it was a pretty good list. And actually, I would like to make a quick statement. Today's video, which if y'all are watching this Wednesday's video, chapter 10, I'm gonna be real guys, because that's what I'm about. I wasn't feeling it. I really didn't think it was important to list like postures of prayer, but I promised that I was gonna read a chapter a day and post a video on what I took from it, so that's what I did. But in my honest opinion, you know, pray however you can pray, one-legged and holding one hand up and one eye open, for all I care, as long as you're linked in and connected with God. That's all that matters. So just wanted to get that up there. Let's get to chapter 11. Okay, now number 1 on the list is praying without knowing God through Jesus. So this kind of goes to, okay, prayer is pretty much like a universal human response that whenever you're in like some deep stuff, people start praying. You know, like say a tornado's going over the house, someone's in their closet, whether they're a believer or not, they're probably praying. Or someone gets shot and, you know, they're laying there down on the ground, you know, God, it's pretty much a go-to, just saying, God, please help me get through this, or whatever. Just basically, when it comes down to it, people start praying as an emergency response. And you know, that's fine and all, and God can answer prayers from someone that's a non-believer, but it's almost like keeping a conversation going with someone that you have absolutely nothing in common with. And actually in John 14:6, Jesus said, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. So basically, all I'm saying is, without knowing God through Jesus, yes, you can pray in those emergency situations. Like, you know, God can answer, but you're not going to be able to continue to pray after that and grow a really deep relationship, because you need to accept Jesus as your Savior. And that's just first on the list. And second is praying from an unrepentant heart. Okay, so praying with an unrepentant heart. That is, you know, we got to remember, God sees our hearts, and we're all going to sin, we're all going to fall short, but He'll see in our hearts, you know, we ask for forgiveness, of course, but He sees that we're trying. Now, if you're just asking for forgiveness and you're not trying, and you just don't feel bad, and you grow cold to wanting to better yourself, then once you do that, you just sort of stiff-arm God, and He's going to stiff-arm your prayers. And so it's very important to not get numb to our sins, and to have a heart for wanting to get better. So that leads us to number 3, and that's praying for show. Okay, so I was recording in the backyard, and then the neighbor like across started cutting the grass like really close to the fence, so I kind of gave up on that idea, and I relocated to my garage with the garage door open, had all this natural light coming in, and it was cool. And then someone's like weed eating like across the yard that way. So obviously people don't want me to record today, but it's cool. Just close the garage door. Now it's just, you know, 100 degrees in here, but we're gonna get it done. So praying for show. When you pray, you are not to be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and on the street corners, so they may be seen by men. Truly I say to you, they have their reward in full. So always remember, guys, that whenever you're praying and you're leading a group of people, I don't care whether, you know, it's just you and your mom, or you're praying over the dinner table, like whatever. I don't care when you're praying. Just remember that it's always for an audience of one, and He's sitting up there and He sees right through your heart. So it's always best to keep it real. That's the best thing anything can do. And then number 4 is praying repetitive empty words. Okay, so number 4, which is praying repetitive empty words. When you are praying, do not use meaningless repetitions as the Gentiles do, for they suppose that they will be heard for their many words. So do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask Him. And that's Matthew 6:7-8. So You know, sure, there's discipline that goes into, you know, remembering maybe all these Bible verses or these sayings or whatever the case may be, but just don't let prayer turn into an emptiness, like a thoughtless, a mindless, just going through the motion. It's got to be from the heart. And I'm a huge believer in just, you know, because I'm one of those people that when I pray, I don't have all these like crazy words. Whenever I was younger, and I guess here pretty recently too, I just, you know, didn't want to ever pray out loud in front of a group or in front of, like, say, the youth, or, you know, just whatever the case was at the time, because, you know, certain people would pray and it would just sound awesome, and it's, you know, they could just, I don't know, drop words and it would just sound very powerful. And I've never been that way, and I'm still not that way, but it's okay because God sees my heart and He knows my point, and that it's genuine, and He knows it's coming from my heart, so that's all that matters. So this leaves us with number 5, which we're getting to the halfway point, so just bear with me, and it's prayers that are not prayed. So let me see where it is here. James 4:2, you do not have because you do not ask. Now, of course, you know, some people might need to hear this, but it should be pretty obvious that something that's hindering your prayer life is something that you're not praying about. Now, if it's on your mind, it's on your hearts, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna pray about it, I'm gonna make time for it, but you never hit the brakes and you never stop and ask God for your guidance, for His guidance and advice or any type of directions, then He's just gonna let you run right into a wall. So there's number 5. Now, number 6 is praying with a lustful heart. And James 4:3 says, you ask and do not receive because you ask with the wrong motive, so that you may spend it on your pleasures. So don't get me wrong, God will give you things that you want. You know, Psalms 37:4, delight yourself in the Lord and He will give you the desires of your heart. But whenever the root cause is just like of lust, greed, bitterness, pride, if any of that is the motives for what you're asking for, if it's just plain like, you know, God, I want this 3-story house, you know, please give me this 3-story house, and it's just me and my wife, and there's no actual, God will give you something, but it's more than likely to be something you can use to also benefit Him. And, you know, some of the things we ask for are just silly. So we need to make sure before we ask God for these things, we just need to make sure and look in our hearts and make sure it's of the right motive. Okay, so now we are at number 7, which is praying while mistreating your spouse. And I don't really know the demographics, the people that are watching my videos, but more than likely it's like family and younger people, so you may not even be married. But since it's part of the book, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way and show her honor as a fellow heir of the grace of life, so that your prayers will not be hindered. He says it right there in 1 Peter 3:7, that will hinder your prayers. And of course, obviously, it goes the other way also with wives treating their husbands. Number 8, praying while ignoring the poor. So when you show compassion to those in need, God will show you favor upon your request, but the opposite is also true. It says, he who shuts his ear to the cry of the poor will also cry himself and not be answered. Proverbs 21:13. Now that's something I didn't really know growing up, is that God specifically wants you to reach out to the poor, and that if you ignore them, then He's going to hinder your prayers. That's kind of an eye-opener to me. Alright, number 9, praying with bitterness in your heart towards someone. So in case you didn't know, it is sinful to pray to God and accept His forgiveness whenever we are completely undeserving, but then we stand on the other end of the table where someone has crossed you in a wrong way and you are unwilling to forgive them. I don't know why I messed up on that sentence so bad. But bitterness is a toxin that not only poisons us spiritually, mentally, and even physically, but it's also another action, a form that is going to hinder our prayers. So just think about it. If in your heart you're holding something against someone that's clinging on to you and you refuse to forgive them, that God's looking down on you, and although He still has forgiven you, you know, He's frowning on that, and that is holding you back in your prayer life. Okay, last but not least is praying with a faithless heart. And in James 1, God actually, he describes the man that is unsure, that does not believe, as a double-minded man and unstable in all his ways. And you know, this goes true with anything in life. Just think if you have I relate everything to a best friend, and you start to get to where you are not confident in his capability to, like, say, meet your requirements or hold up to his end of the bargain, and that starts to cloud that friendship. And then you just, can you do this? You know, are you sure you're gonna do it? And then, hey, can you make sure and get this done? And then it just clouds the friendship and just kind of puts a little barrier, and will ruin that. So also, you just need to consider, you know, this whole relationship with God is based around us trusting and believing that He's there. It is having faith. A huge part of this is to have faith. And so, of course, without faith, and that's why it's kind of like a mic drop. I mean, doubt, you know, lack of faith, doubt will lock you out of your own prayer closet. And it's kind of a big deal. So you need to make sure when you're praying, you're not just going through the motions. You know, kind of in the same sense as earlier. It's just going through the motions, you know, I'm asking God, but are you really believing it? Or do you believe He's going to help you? Because once you truly believe that God can and will do the things that He's saying He's going to do, then it will happen. And it may not happen that split second, but God is there and He's listening, and He's going to do His thing. That's what it comes down to. So there you go, guys. That's chapter 11. Brandon with Wake Ministries. It's time to wake up and make God famous again. I'll see you tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed this video.